We are in Parashat Vayishlach. If there'll be time at the end of the class, please remind me to tell you why this is my parasha, even though I was born on Parashat Bereshit. I was born in Parashat Bereshit. My bar mitzvah is after of Noach, but my parasha is Vayishlach. When I became observant, I was very upset that my name is not in the Tanakh. And in this parasha is my name exactly how it's written, Alon, not Elon, and not Alonei. And miraculously, Bezrat Hashem, this Shabbat, I'm going to be celebrating with my wife our anniversary. And that's our parasha, because in our parasha, both of our names are in the same verse. So we're going to learn about it today. And if there'll be time after the class, I'll tell you the unbelievable miracle in our wedding, but we're going to meet now, today, we're going to talk about it, that both of our names are in this parasha, but in the same verse. Now, my name is Alon, it's not a biblical name, and my wife's name is Dvorah. There's nowhere in the Torah the name Dvorah, only in the book of Shoftim, in the judge, the prophet Dvorah. And in this parasha, both of our names are mentioned in the same verse. And the miracle was that when I went up to the Torah on my Shabbat Chatan, from a very huge congregation of about 3,000 people, I was called to the Torah on that aliyah. Wow. And then there's another miracle the year later. But anyways, let's get to the parasha, and if there's time, we'll tell you the story. So, and if you hear this coming week, then Shabbat, we're going to have an extra bigger meal than usual. If you want to join us, it's going to be our anniversary. So, Shabbat. Shabbat. This Shabbat, Yudalet Kislev is our anniversary. So it happens this Shabbat. Don't tell my wife. She usually forgets that that's the element of surprise. I'm able to surprise her. So if you remember, a month ago it was her birthday, and I said, don't tell her it's her birthday because I'm going to surprise her. Somebody had to tell her, oh, your husband said it's your birthday. And I was like, great. So I lost the element of surprise. So don't tell her, oh, we heard it's your anniversary. Then at least I can surprise her. But anyways. So this is a very special parasha, especially to me. But not only that, very applicable to our institute, because this parasha is talking about the mothers. This is another parasha that attributes what is the purpose of the mothers. We're looking at all the parashot, at least the previous one that we're talking about, and the highlight is the forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And it seems like the women are like kind of pushed aside, and hey, why aren't you talking about them a little bit? We see that Avraham Avinu was a great man of chesed and went around the world and converted people and built Torah centers, but we don't hear what Sarah did. And then we learn about Yitzchak, and all the theme is about Yitzchak. But what did Rivka do? And now the same thing, the Yaakov, the theme is on Yaakov. Hey, you have 4 women here. Why don't I hear anything? What did they do? What was their talents? What was their purpose? How come the Torah is not mentioning what the women are doing? And more than that, I want to know what was their purpose. So we know Avraham Avinu, his purpose was to spread Torah around the world and to convert everybody and bring everybody to Judaism. And Yitzchak was working in a different way, learning Torah, bringing the Torah. Yaakov came to build the nation. But I want to know what is the purpose, or more, what is the focus on the mothers, and why they're a little bit in the shadow, so to say, and why they're not talked about so much. And not only that, what is their real job? What did they do? We don't know anything. We know a little bit, but we barely don't know a lot about the mothers. Now, we have 4 mothers, matriarchs, and this week, unfortunately, we're saying goodbye to 2 of them. Sarah already passed away a few parashot away. This parasha, 2 of them died, Rivka and Rachel. And again, we want to know basically what's behind the mothers. So first of all, a little bit of history, what's going on. We know that Yaakov went to Haran. We know the whole story. He was running away from Esav, found himself in Haran, working 7 years for Rachel, got Leah, worked another 7 years to get Rachel. In the meantime, started building the house of Israel. And after he's done, he leaves Haran, and he starts going towards Eretz Israel, to Canaan. There wasn't Eretz Israel yet, it was Canaan, but he was going. Of course, there's the story how he met Esav on the way, but later on we see that he parks in an area called Shechem. And amazingly, he buys the land. We read about it a few parashot ago, how Avraham Avinu bought the land of where the Marat HaMachpelah is. And I mentioned how all the places that the entire world are arguing with us if it's ours or not, they were actually purchased with money. So here we see that Yaakov bought a land in Shechem. He actually bought it with money. Don't come later on and say it's not ours. We actually bought it with money. And the unfortunate story happens with Shechem. You know, you live in not such a great area, then there'll be repercussions for that. And we know the Dina goes out and night on the town with the girls' night out. And the unfortunate story that Shechem captures her, and then of course came a disaster out of that. Shimon and Levi get very upset, and they go and they will destroy the entire city. But on the night when he heard Yaakov Avinu what happened with Dina, he does cheshbon nefesh. Cheshbon nefesh is an account. We have to do cheshbon nefesh every night. When we say Kriyat Shema Lamita, it's not only to read a bunch of words, it's to sit and to make an account. What did I do today? And was I a good husband, a good citizen, a good neighbor? Was I a good Jew? Did I follow what the Torah says? Maybe I need to rectify something. The whole point of Kriyat Shema Lamita is not only to read the text, is to bring yourself to a couple moments that I summarize the day, and I can do, it's called Cheshbon Nefesh, self-accounting, a self-assessment. What was I doing today? And then I can find out if I did something wrong, and the next day, fix it. If you think you can schlep it all the way to Yom Kippur and then do tshuva, you can't. How can you remember on Yom Kippur what you did 11 months before that? Not only that, why should I schlep something? Should I stretch something? If I hurt somebody's feelings today by saying something wrong, why should I keep it till Elul to do tshuva? Go to him the next day and say, listen, yesterday that wasn't okay. I'm sorry, I take my words back. I really feel bad at what I said. So the cheshbon nefesh is to sit the night on my bed before I go to sleep, and to say, okay, where am I holding? Why? So if I do tshuva that night, then I go to sleep with tshuva. And if chas v'shalom I don't wake up, then at least I did tshuva. So Yaakov Avinu did cheshbon nefesh. He's like, okay, my daughter just got captured and Shem Yerachem raped. Maybe I'm doing something wrong here. Something happens. When something bad happens in your life, you have to do cheshbon nefesh. The Talmud says, "Abal Adam Yisurim Yifashpesh b'maasav." Person has hardship, something happens. The fashpesh b'maasav is go through your actions. Maybe you're doing something that is not 100% good. Rashi says that when Yaakov did cheshbon nefesh that night after what happened to Dina, Hashem appeared to him and told him, "It's your fault. What happened here is your fault." Ooh, that's pretty harsh. My fault? What did I do? Hashem tells him, you didn't fulfill your promise. Remember your promise from last parasha? And you said that after you leave Haran, if I will be with you and help you and clothe you and dress you, what would you said you have a promise. You said you're going to go back to the house of your father. And you're going to give maser, and you're going to... I don't see you going back to the house of your father. You're parked in Shechem for 2 years. You're not going back. You said you're going to go back to Canaan, to do Kibud Aveim, to do the mitzvot. Why are you parked in the middle of the road? So, and that was the promise. Yaakov Avinu said, I will come back here. And Hashem says, listen, you're not holding your promise. I did my promise. I saved you. I guarded you. I clothed you. I fed you. Now you do your promise. You're not holding your end of the deal, so you're bringing on yourself some hardship. Right away, Yaakov Avinu gets the point. He gets up, packs his bags and everything. I mean, imagine, Yaakov is not traveling with a bag. He has 11 kids, wives, and cattle, and so he moves from Shechem to Bet El. And then he says, okay, you're right. I don't even know why I parked here. Now, out of nowhere, completely not connected to what we're talking about, comes a verse that I spoke about it before. And the verse says, Vatamat Dvorah, Meyaneket Rivka, and Dvorah, the breastfeeder, the nanny of Rivka, died. And then it says, Vatikaber mitachat lebet El, and she got buried in Bet El, which is a place. And then it says, Vatikaber tachat ha'alon, she would be buried underneath the alon, Vatikare shmo alon bachut. And she would be called Alon Bachut. So this is what I told you again, my verse, because this is where you found my name and my wife's name, Dvorah. I don't know if we'll have time to say the whole story after that, but a year later, the story was that we had a very long engagement. We got engaged. The world did not approve the wedding, so we had to delay the wedding for many months, which wasn't easy. I had to be like Yaakov, had to wait for Rachel for not 7 years, Baruch Hashem. But in many ways, I always say I'm like Yaakov. I went to Haran, I had to leave Israel, I went to America for the exact amount of time that Yaakov was in Haran, and then Yaakov came back with 4 wives and 12 kids. I came with 1 wife and 6 kids. But same idea, man, exact length of time I was in America. Not that I'm comparing America to Haran, but America is not far away from Haran. And anyways, so we had to wait a long time for our wedding. And finally, when we decided to get married, which again, the story is long, but Bezrat Hashem, if you come and join us on Friday, you'll hear the whole story. And then when I was called up to the Torah, on my Shabbat Chatan, I was in a congregation that has about 3,000 people. And many, many other grooms, and all the grooms are called to the Torah. And I was called to this verse, and when I come down, everybody tells me, did you see? Your name and your wife's name is in the same pasuk, in the same verse. How? That? I mean, even if your name is Avram and Sarah, you don't even get that. And how many are husbands and wives, their names are in the same pasuk? The most amazing thing is a year later, my daughter was born, and we waited for my father to come from Israel. We lived in America at the time, and we waited for him to come from Israel so we can do a kiddush for the girl. We don't do a brit milah, we do a kiddush. So he didn't come so fast, so we waited about a month. By the time that he came, the day we did the kiddush for my daughter was our anniversary. Happened to be that again I got called to the Torah, in the same congregation with 3,000 people, to the same aliyah, and then we read the verse, Vatamat Dvorah, Meyaneket Rivka, and my daughter's name is Rivka. Wow. And we didn't name her because of the verse. Happens to be that we named her for many different reasons, Rivka. And again, I go down from the bima, and everybody tells me, did you see? Your 3 names are in the verse. That's why I kept telling you this is my parasha. But I don't think we're going to have time after the class to say the whole story, but Bezrat Hashem, come on Friday, you'll hear it. So, Rivka is buried in Marat HaMachpelah, correct. This is very good observation. So the pasuk comes out of nowhere and says that the nanny of Rivka died, and she was buried tachat the tree, under the tree in Bet El, and v'yikare shmo Alon Bachut. Read the next verse after that. It says that Hashem came to Yaakov to do nichum avilim, to comfort a person that loses somebody, and it says, and he will bless him. Now let's understand what's going on here. Rivka was born to the house of Betuel. Eliezer comes and takes her when she's 3 years old. Then she left with a nanny. I don't know how you call it. It's called meyaneket, but a nanny that took care of her. And happened to be that this nanny, her name was Dvorah. Now this nanny was with Rivka all her life. Now, don't forget, Rivka got taken when she was 3 years old, and for 20 years, I mean, she maybe got married to Yitzchak right away, but 20 years nothing happened. I mean, only later they had started having relations, and she only had kids in a much later age. She was barren for a while. Now, the whole time, this lady was with Rivka, made a very deep bond, and the story says, okay, the nanny died, but why does Yaakov need to sit Shiva, say Kaddish, and mourn the death of the nanny? I mean, we like her, she's part of the family, but what is this story coming in the middle of nowhere? Now, we see that, we know that after the whole story with the taking of the blessings, it was Rivka who told Yaakov, run away. He's going to kill you, run away, pack your bags, leave. And he's like, where should I go? Rivka tells him, go to Haran, go to my uncle. Go to my brother, your uncle. And he says, okay, how long should I be there? Rivka says, whenever the danger passes, I will send you a messenger. Don't you stay there till I tell you to come. Okay. One day, Yaakov hears a knock on the door. He opens the door. Who does he see? Devorah, the nanny. Your mom told me to come and get you. Oh, really? Yalla, time to go. Guys, wrap it up. We're out. Yaakov Avinu was waiting for Dvorah to come and say, well, he didn't know it's Dvorah. Just Rivka told him, I will send you a messenger to come and tell you when the danger is over. He didn't know who's going to come, but he recognized, oh, that's the nanny. She's with our family for years. If you know, I think it was 9 years ago, I think it was recently, a couple days ago, was the marking of the day. There was a terror attack in Mumbai, in the Chabad house. 6 Jews were murdered there. So, if I'm not mistaken, it was 9 years ago, right? Shem Yerachem. But anyways, at the time, there was a little boy, his name is Moishi, and the nanny there grabbed him and ran away out, and he was saved. And now he lives here in Israel, and the nanny's with them. They brought her with them, and she still lives with him. I think it was a couple of years ago that one of the conventions of the Chabad rabbis around the world, he spoke, and she was there too. But anyways, so Rivka had a nanny, and Yaakov was waiting for a messenger. Finally, the nanny comes, and she tells him, "Okay, it's time to go." Yaakov wraps it up, and he leaves. Now, this is after 20 years that Yaakov was in Haran, and Dvorah comes, and she tells him it's time to go. On the way, she dies. Yaakov has a very special character trait that we need to learn from. It's called hakarat hatov. Somebody does something good to you, you have to be grateful for that. Don't take things for granted. Somebody does something good for you, remember it. And it's called hakarat hatov. And you know, it says, there's a joke that it says when you help somebody, after you help him, give him little stones. Why little stones? So when he throws at you, that he should throw little stones at you, not big stones. Most people, you do something good to them, they don't remember so far away. So unfortunately, people forget very fast. So you tell them, here, I did something good to you, here's little stones. So when you need to throw something at me, it will be little stones and not big stones. We have to remember that somebody does something good to me. You have to remember that and know to, I don't know the right term in English, but hakara is to have gratitude of something, somebody did something good to you. Yaakov had hakarat hatov. He said to the nanny, okay, you took care of my wife for years, even after she wasn't a little girl. You still stayed, and as hakarat hatov, he says that he buried her, he mourned for her, he said kaddish for her. הבאת את זה? זה אצל דבורה. את רוצה להשאיר לי אותם ואני אכתוב ואשלח לכם? כן, מחר גם טוב. אפשר להשאיר אותם אפילו פה על השולחן, ואני... אין בעיה, תשאיר לי, אני אחתום על כולם ומחר אני אכין את זה מוכן. תודה רבה. שבוע טוב. Yaakov had hakarat tov, and he said, listen, you helped a lot to my wife, and you helped in the family and everything around the house, and I want to show my appreciation. So he buried her, he said Kaddish on her. Okay, but still comes a big question. Okay, she's the nanny. But, make a quick calculation. You know how old she was? It wasn't she was like 22, and wow, she was a very old lady. And if you want to make a quick calculation, Yaakov was 99 years old when he came back to Eretz Israel, to Canaan. Which, what does it mean? That Rivka, if you make a quick calculation, Rivka was taken from Haran when she was 3 years old. 20 years before she had a baby. That's 23 years. Before she got pregnant, sorry. She got pregnant when she was 23 years old. Meaning that she gave birth when she was 24 years old. Now, if Yaakov came back when he was 99 years old, how old is it making the nanny? 140, 145, we don't know her age. But if Yaakov came to Eretz Israel, at this point Yaakov was 99 years old. So the nanny must have been a pretty old lady. I mean, it's very nice, you appreciate her hard work, but why you have to, I understand, okay, you bury her. Comes even a bigger question, why would Rivka send an old lady for this shlichut? Send one of the guys there to go on a horse and ride real fast. You're sending a 100-year-old woman to go and get Yaakov from Haran? Doesn't make sense. When it says, Alon bachut means bechia, to cry. Why would Yaakov cry the death of the nanny? So there is a very interesting commentary by the Ramban, and it's supported by Rashi. And they said it's not referring to Dvorah, the nanny who died. It's Rivka that died. That's why Yaakov buried her, and that's why he mourned her. Yaakov was like a mommy's boy. I mean, we know that Esav was liked by Yitzchak, and Yaakov was very close to Rivka. Now, why is it saying it in a hint? Why can't the Torah just come and say, Rivka died? You know why? Because it was very embarrassing, because nobody was there to bury her. Yitzchak was already old, and he couldn't see anything. Esav disowned his mother. He hated her. You helped my brother, you helped Yaakov get the blessing. I want to talk to you. Yaakov was out on the road in Shechem. Who would bury Rivka? Nobody came to bury her. She had to be buried by the local people there. What an embarrassing way. The mother Rivka? Nobody's there to bury her? That's why Yaakov killed him from inside. That's why when he made cheshbon nefesh with Dina, Hashem told him, who told you to park in Shechem? I sent somebody to get you. You go back right away to your house. Why are you parking in Shechem for so long?
That means that the Torah, the nanny came on herself to give the message that...
Now the thing is that, okay, the Ramban says that there is the possibility that they both died at the same time. But the Ramban explains, again, the Ramban and Rashi both say it's talking about Rivka. It's Rivka that died. And when Yaakov, when it says that he buried her, he mourned for her, Hashem came to do Nichum Avelim, it's talking about Rivka. And Yaakov was very, very close to Rivka. He was very, very close to her, a very unique connection. It was her that he is mourning, and it was her that he buried. Both the Ramban says, no, it's also talking about, it's not that Rivka came to get him. Yes, one can understand that maybe it was Rivka that came to get Yaakov. No, it was Dvorah that came to get him. The Rashi says, "En mikra yotze mibnei pshuto." The mikra doesn't go exactly how you read it. That's what happened. But it's a hint here that Rivka is the one who died, and happened to be that also the Meyaneket died. But we're talking about the death of Rivka. And unfortunately, 10 verses after that, we're facing with another death, and Rachel dies. And Rachel dies when she's very young. Rachel was only 36 years old when she died. She, of course, died in the birth of Binyamin. There's a difference of opinion if she died during the birth or maybe a couple hours later or a day later. But she died right away. And if you remember last week, we spoke about that she died the second that Yaakov came into Eretz Israel, and she died. If you remember, I told you that Yaakov Avinu was particular not to marry two sisters, and the rule is that the forefathers kept the Torah outside of Israel, therefore he was able to marry two sisters. The second that he came into Eretz Israel, then Rachel died. Now, of course, going back to our topic, I mean, we just went a little bit of a detour. The question is, who were the mothers of the next generation? Because we know Sarah was married to Abraham, Rivka was married to Yitzchak, and Rachel and Leah were married to Yaakov. But who are the mothers of the Shvatim? These are our mothers, by the way, because from Yaakov came 12 tribes, and that's the entire house of Israel came from these guys. Who are their mothers? The Torah cannot come and tell me, by the way, Yehuda married her, and Issachar married her. Okay, so we know that Joseph married Osnat. Okay, that we know. And there is, one opinion says that Yehuda married Tamar, but Tamar was not really his wife, it was a mistress, a Pilegesh. Who are the mothers? Why can't the Torah come and tell me, by the way, you have mothers here. Why are you just telling me about the Shvatim? Nobody ever thought of, wait a minute, who are the women? Excuse me? You thought about it? Baruch Hashem, I also thought about it. Why can't the Torah tell me, by the way, there are 12 mothers? Okay, so first of all, we know there is one theory that says, they lived in Canaan, so they married the local women there. No, this opinion is totally disqualified, because if you remember, when Avraham Avinu wanted a wife to Yaakov, to Yitzchak, Eliezer says, let me go out here to the market, I'll put the profile on JDate, I'll get him a wife like that. That's the son of Avraham Avinu, they're going to be marrying many candidates. Avraham Avinu says, I don't want the women from around here. They're wicked, they're mean, they're idol worshippers, they're nothing there. Go all the way to Haran, to my family. Eliezer says, to Haran? They're all idol worshippers there. Avraham Avinu says, you're right, there are, but at least I know where they come from, they're my family. I know the essence. You're right, they do worship idols, but at least I know where they come from. I know the essence. Go get me a wife for my son from there. And he sends them all the way to Haran to get Rivka. Same thing, this was a tradition. Also with Yitzchak and also with Yaakov. Yaakov had to go all the way to Haran to find his wife. And believe it or not, even Esav. Esav refused to marry the local women. He also went to bring wives from where? From the daughter of Hagar, the kids of Hagar. He was like, no, I'm holding by my father and my grandfather. Esav was
married two women that his parents didn't like.
They didn't like them, but he went out to get them. Of course they didn't like them, they were idol worshippers. But Esav went to marry, he didn't marry from the local women, he went all the way to Egypt and he went to the kids of Hagar, to Keturah, to bring girls from her. Because he said, that's the tradition of our family. We don't marry the Knaanim, the Canaanites women. So we disqualify the fact that it was the tribes that married the Canaanite women. So who did they marry? I mean, it's our mothers. Very soon Mashiach is going to come. You know what's one of the first things that Mashiach is going to do? He's going to start pointing at us. From which Shevet we are. You're from Shevet Yehuda, you're from Shevet Gad, you're from Shevet Menashe. He's not pointing on us. Now we don't know. Some people say, I'm from the tribe of Issachar. Who told you that? The only ones that we know from what tribe they are the Kohanim and the Levim, from Shevet Levi. That's the only one that we know. And even them, there's such a mishmash. Probably half of the Kohanim, they think they're Kohanim. They're not really Kohanim. Some type of, with the descending of the generations, there are many people that are Kohanim and they don't even know they're Kohanim. I have a good friend that for years, he was a Levi. One time, we're sitting in the shul, they're reading the Torah, they're screaming out, Levi, Levi, Levi. I tell him, no, get up. He says, no, I'm not a Levi anymore. I said, what, you quit? That's it? You don't like being a Levi? He's like, no, recently when I got married, they pulled out the ketubah. The rabbi wanted to see 3 generations back. We found out we're not even Leviing. So I told him, wow, so many times you go up to the Torah as a Levi? I told him, I thought maybe they weren't happy with your voice. They fired you or something. So really, the only ones who can know their tribe is the Shevet Levi, and the ones who tell you, I'm from that Shevet. Who told you such a thing? How do you know that? So I know now it's becoming more awareness. As a group of people, they say we're from the Shevet of Ephraim, the Shevet of Menashe. I don't know who told you that. Mashiach is going to come, he's going to tell you from which Shevet you are. So we don't really know. Bemet, we don't really know. There's one opinion that says that we're only from Shevet, everybody here is Shevet Yehuda.
How does that affect our lives?
It shouldn't affect your life in any way. You're right, it shouldn't affect your life. When Mashiach will come, it will affect us, because we're going to have Bet HaMikdash again, we're going to have the structure of the Shvatim. Yeah? But for now, it shouldn't affect our life at all. But still, we want to know where we're coming from. Why is the Torah only talking about the fathers and we don't know who our mothers are? Give me one, you can find with DNA, but right now I want to know who are the mothers. So the explanation is that each tribe was born with a twin. Yaakov had 20, how much? 25 kids. 12 tribes. Each tribe was born with a twin and Dina. 25 kids he had. The reason why Dina was born as she was, if you remember, last week we mentioned that Rachel didn't have kids, and Leah got already pregnant with the 7th pregnancy, and she says, oh my gosh, if I'm going to have a boy now, it means that Rachel is only going to have one boy, and she's going to be the least of all mothers. So she prayed, please, Hashem, she prayed to Hashem that the gender will change. And sure enough, instead of a man came a girl, and that's Dina. But Yaakov Avinu literally had, Baruch Hashem. אם היא לא מוצאת, תגידי לה שהחותמת במגירה. תודה רבה. But we know that each tribe came with a twin. Now, they would not marry their own sister. But the halacha is that you're not allowed to marry a sister from your father, but not from the mother. So they all switched. Yehuda married the twin of Issachar, Issachar married the twin of Gad, Gad married the twin of Asher. They switched the sisters and they all married their own sisters. That's our mothers, by the way. We don't know the names. Excuse me? This is written in the Midrash. And we don't know the names. Didn't come with names, but we know that they switched sisters, because the prohibition is to marry the sister from the father. So, for example, Yehuda and Shimon could not marry their wives, but from the mother, this is not considered from the same father. That's where they can switch sisters. That's our mothers, by the way. Now, back to our topic about the mothers. So what is the whole role of the Jewish mom? What are the moms doing? Why are they they're not in the limelight? That's how you say, limelight? Limelight, the spotlight. So, let's go back a few generations back, a few parashot back, and we find a little bit of a marital disagreement, and there's an argument between Sarah and Avram. Believe it or not, they also had some problems with Shlom Bayit. It's not only us. And the argument was that Avram brought to the home a son that doesn't belong to Sarah. He brings in Ishmael. Sarah doesn't like him. It's not her son. And Avram says, listen, it's my son. He has to live with us. It's from a previous marriage. I'm sorry. He's living with us. And it caused a lot of Shlom Bayit problems. Sarah was a little bit of a more patient individual. She was like, okay, fine. She lets Ishmael live in the house. Till one day, she noticed that Ishmael is very bad influence on Yitzchak. And he says that she saw him metzachek in Yitzchak, doing nonsense. Kind of like in our generation, imagine like a 17-year-old taking now a 6-year-old and showing him all sorts of things on the phone, on the iPad, all sorts of not kosher things.
There is a bad connotation to metzachek, no? I've heard this.
Yeah, metzachek means he was, like somebody's...
Misinfluencing.
Excuse me?
Misinfluencing.
Yeah, but misinfluencing. But metzachek is, when you want to do something bad to somebody, you're like, this is metzachek. Like, let me see how I can now trick you here. Ishmael was like, listen. Ishmael was completely off. And he was being a very bad influence on Yitzchak. Sarah walks in, puts her foot down. She says to Avraham Avinu, get rid of him. He's out of the house. Avraham Avinu says, listen, I did not argue. We married for so many years. I never argue with you about anything. Please don't make me throw my son out of my house. He's my son. I know he's a little bit of a troublemaker. Trust me, I know my son. But please, don't let me throw my son out of the house. This is Bechlal lesson. Unfortunately, especially in the observant world, almost any family, if not any family, then any second family in the observant world has at least one that is a little bit of a loose wheel. So, they say off the derech, off the path. The worst thing to do is to throw that child out of the house. And we learned that from Avraham Avinu. Even though the child is a little bit of a rebel, don't throw him out of the house. Keep him in the house. And Avraham Avinu was saying to Sarah, please, don't make me throw him out of the house. I beg you. He's my son. I know he's a troublemaker. I'll talk to him. I'll do whatever I need to do. But don't let me throw him out of the house. What happens? They didn't have marriage counselor at the time. Now who's Avraham Avinu going to go? He's the rabbi. He's the Rebbe. Who is Avraham Avinu going to go to? Hashem steps in and says, okay, you don't have who to go to, I'll step in. What does Hashem tell Avraham Avinu? Everything that your wife Sarah tells you, Shma Bekola, listen to her. Avraham Avinu says, okay, you say, I say, okay. Hashem said that, I will do what you say. But Hashem clearly comes in and says, everything that Sarah tells you, Kol asher tomar alecha Sarah, Shma Bekola. And this is the stamp of the power of the mothers. This is when the Torah comes and kicks in and says, I don't need to go now on a whole quest telling you who's the mothers. Hashem said that, and he said it once. And he said to Avraham Avinu, he made him this big, and he told him, whatever Sarah tells you, you listen to her. She's the one in charge here. Avraham Avinu being a tzaddik, no problem. Whatever my wife says, no problem. And right away, Ishmael gets kicked out of the house. As hard as it was for Avraham Avinu. In the 10 nisyonot, we learned about it 4 weeks ago. Avraham Avinu had 10 nisyonot. One of the tests was to kick Ishmael out of the house. It was a big test for him. He couldn't, he didn't want to. But we see here that Hashem intervenes and he says to Avraham Avinu, no, you listen to Sarah. That's it. That was the last word. And this is exactly the foundation of our mothers. That Avraham was busy with everything. Avraham was a big, I don't know, can't say businessman, even though he had a lot of business. Avraham was very wealthy. He had a hotel chain. He had, I don't know, the Marriott or the Hilton, whatever he called it at that time. He had branches all over the world. A very, very wealthy man. He had, centers all over the world for kiruv centers. He didn't have a YouTube channel or a Facebook page. So he had to do social media, the real social thing, without the media. And he was busy, a busy guy. You think he was home all day long? He was traveling, lectures all over the world. Sarah was the one who was at home to educate Yitzchak. She was the foundation of the education and the upbringing of Yitzchak. That's why Hashem says, whatever Sarah says, you listen to her. She's the one. And then, of course, we see the same thing with Rivka. Doesn't mention much about Rivka, but Rivka was the one who brought up Yaakov. It says that Esav was a Pere Adam, was wild, go out and do trouble. For whatever reason, he was able to deceive Yitzchak. But Rivka didn't buy that. Rivka's like, no. I'm investing all my time into Yaakov.
No, I'm not sure what you call exactly, but isn't it like she was the first one that you can see like in the Bible that she approaches God first, like in all the other times like God.
You're talking about Sarah or Rivka?
Rivka. Like when she feels like in a time she goes like that's the first time we see she actually goes to what's going on.
Yeah, 100%.
That's like a really big thing, you know? I mean, like
the Torah.
The first person to be mentioned that is approaching God with a question without God approaching them.
The thing is that the Torah is very about humbleness or just being humble, tzniut. And it says wherever you find Hashem's greatness, that's where you find Him being humble. במקום שאתה מוצא את גדולתו, שם אתה מוצא את הנבטנותו. Wherever you see the greatness of Hashem, you won't see how great He is. You won't see Him at all. Same thing here. So this is just saying, in other words, that the mothers, the matriarchs, were much greater than the men. They didn't need to be said who they are, what they did. This is what the Torah is coming and telling us. The women did not need to be praised or to be, wow, they're so great. The women chose, no, I want to be humble. Tzniut is not necessarily a long dress. And modesty, tzniut is modesty. It's not necessarily covering your risks. And some women, they go with dresses till their ankles, but the dress is so tight, there's nothing modest there. So tzniut is not necessarily with my wardrobe. Tzniut starts with the mind, especially tzniut of a woman. It starts with the mind, then it goes to her speech and to her actions. Later on it comes to how she's dressed. But a modest woman is when the inside is modest. The women, our matriarchs, were like, listen, we don't need to have titles. We don't need to be out there on billboards and how great we are. We want to do our job quietly. Don't need all the flash. On the topic of that, everything that Sarah says you should listen to her, there is a story in the Talmud. It can be found in the tractate Baba Batra, that at the area of Hebron they found a lot of graves, and at the time there was a problem. There's Kohanim, you can't step on the graves. Everywhere was graves, and this is in the city of Hebron. And there was one individual that he was an Amora, Rabbi Anava, and he said, you know what, I'm going to go and start looking for all the graves and organize them and mark them, and because there was a lot of problems, nobody could really freely walk around. And the story says that he was fixing all the graves, and then he reached to Marat HaMachpelah, where Adam and Chava are buried, and Avram and Sarah, and Yaakov and Rivka, and then of course Yitzchak and Rivka. Not fixing it that their graves are broken. Fixing means fixing little marks around it. Where is the grave? A Kohen can't just step on a grave. And there's all sorts of dinim here, a lot of laws here. A grave of a Jew, of a non-Jew. But anyways, he went and fixed everything in such a way that the graves were exposed. And there was marks around the grave that here don't step. Anyways, in his shlichut, he went and he somehow stumbled upon Marat HaMachpelah. And the story says that he went in and he sees Avraham Avinu lying, and Sarah is sitting next to him and pulling a lice out of his hair. Lice. Why lice? Lice is representing the dirt that's coming from something external, something outside. Avraham Avinu used to go out to the world and he would get dirty. He used to talk to idol worshippers all the time. He had his agenda, and he got dirty. And Sarah Imenu, later on, Sarah Imenu had to so to say take the lice out. Now we know why was she taking out his lice? Because Avraham Avinu was not allowed at home. Because he was busy. He had a shlichut, he had a mission to go out and to clean the world, to get everybody know that there's a God. So who was left at home? Sarah. Sarah had to educate Yitzchak. Then the same thing with Rivka. Yitzchak had the same thing. He was going out. He also had a business. He has a well digging business, very profitable business. Like in America, how do you call it? The Poland Springs, the mineral water. Here in Israel, May Eden, Yaakov Avinu was digging wells. He was a millionaire. Because who has water? Clean water? So Yitzchak was also a man of the world. He was outside, he was busy making business, learning Torah. Who was at home with Yaakov? Rivka. Their job was to prepare the next generation. Because without Sarah preparing Yitzchak, and without Rivka preparing Yaakov, and without Rachel and Leah preparing the rest of the Shvatim, who would prepare the next generation? So we see something very amazing. The Torah, like we said, is not giving too much credit or not going out of its way to mention how special the women are. But if you notice, besides Binyamin, all the tribes were named by the mothers. Where are the fathers? Where are you, Yaakov? You didn't come to the Brit? That the mother had to name the child? But we see that the mothers are the one who named the child. The only one that was named by Yaakov was Binyamin, because Rachel already died. He had to name him. But, and it's not that it seems like in the Torah like they named them on the first day. But no, they waited the 8 days for the Brit and then they named it. But the mothers named the kids to represent that the mothers are the source of the continuation of the next generation. Without the next generation, we are nothing. We are worthless. Even when the Torah was given, it says that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, first talk softly to the women. First not to talk to Bet Yaakov. Then Tomar v'tagid lebet Israel. Then to go with the men, you can be harsh with them. Then we ladies, first tell them and gentle. The Torah is coming and saying in other words that the mothers are the yesod, the foundation of our nation. And without the mothers, we have nothing. That's one of the many reasons why we go in Judaism by the mother. There's many other reasons for that. Because you can't mistaken with who gave birth. With the father, you can mistaken. There can be many fathers in a situation, but the giving of the birth, you know exactly who the mother is. But the mothers are the foundation of our next generation, and that's why the Torah is going, first of all, the Torah is not going out of its way to say it, because the whole essence of a woman is the tzniut, is the modesty. Of course, it manifests later into the way they dress. But the real tzniut starts in the woman's mind, and then comes down to her speech, and then to her actions. And so the women being tznuot, even Sarah, listen, I'm going to be in the tent, you don't have to call me out, I don't need to be involved here in any way. So they're like, listen, also in the Torah, they're like, we don't need to have a big spotlight on us. We know what we need to do, and that's the most important thing. And this is really the lessons that we want to take, not only for the women. First of all, if you want to look at it, for the women, many women feel that maybe they are considered in the eyes of the Torah second-class citizen. It's the complete opposite. Needless to say that many people look at the religion, I don't like using the word religion, but I have to make my point across, that the Torah is pushing the women, and say, no, the Torah is holding the women in a much higher level. We spoke about it 2 parashot ago, if you remember, that the power of the woman, that even the husband needs to, I know you hear only ladies, but we have many men looking at the videos, they should understand that the woman is the last word. And if Hashem intervened and came and said to Avraham Avinu, everything that your wife tells you, listen to her, then a woman has what's called a bina yetera, an extra level of bina. She sees things in a completely different. And that means that the men need to really appreciate and value the power of the woman. But the woman needs to understand that, wait a minute, I have a big responsibility here. The next generation is in my hands. The husband is going out and he needs to learn Torah, he needs to work and etc. But it's my responsibility. It's actually yours, not mine. Last time I checked, I'm not a woman. But it's the women's responsibility to understand the continuation is in your hands. And that's really the power of a mother. There's a story in the Talmud that there was a certain Tana. His name is Rabbi Yoshua ben Hananiah. And his mother used to take his carriage into the yeshiva and just push it in. He was later a student of Rabbi Akiva, the second generation Tana. And later on he became a student of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who was at the time the leader of the generation, called him Ashrei Yoldato. Happy is the mother that gave birth to this Tana. Because the mother, listen, her agenda was to put just to him to hear Torah all day long. But either way we're looking at it, the point is that usually the best jobs or the most important jobs are done very quietly. And you see that, especially like in an army or anything that has to do with the war, it's the ones that there's one spy, one soldier that goes behind the line quietly, doesn't get any credit, and usually it's these units that do the quiet, and they don't need any credit. There's a certain individual that now he passed away, and happened to be was one of the top Mossad agents from the decades. Nobody knew anything about him. Nobody knew anything. Unfortunately, now he died, and the family is in some type of financial stress, so they're asking the help. The government don't want to help, and they're saying, our father gave his life to the country for so many years. Now we're in financial stress because he gave up his life. And they're making a whole stink out of it because they feel bad that their father did so much to the country and the country doesn't even come to their aid. So suddenly his name was exposed. I mean, he died already, that's totally fine. Suddenly you see this man that nobody ever thought that he's anything, and the guy was probably in charge of, of all these secret missions that who God even knows what was the result of them. And these are the people that say, you know what, I don't need to have too much credits and titles, and this is exactly with the power of the woman. Don't look for titles and say, oh, I'm this. The women, the mothers in our Torah were like, we don't need titles. We don't need to be on a pedestal, and we did so. We're doing our job quietly. It's L'Shem Shamayim. Exactly like you said, that Rivka was able to turn to Hashem and to talk to Him. Yeah, because she had a connection with Hashem. Is completely different than Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So for the men who are learning the class, they actually need to understand and value their wife, their woman. And exactly like Avraham Avinu was told by the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Kol ma sheSara ishtecha omeret lecha shma bekola, anything that your wife tells you, then you should listen for her. But the ladies need to understand how powerful they are. You don't need to get credit, and don't worry, the credit is by the Kadosh Baruch Hu. There's a story, we just mentioned Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, after he had 24,000 students, and at some point they all died. And later on, of course, he was left with a few other students, which, the dominating of them was Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Anyways, the way it worked at the time, that the Rebbe, who was at the time Rabbi Akiva, would sit and he would give his class. And in the first row would sit the best students, second row the less, the third row the less, and so forth. One time, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai walks into the Bet Midrash and somebody's sitting in his seat. So he's not going to make a whole stink out of it, so he sits in the second row. But he's not so comfortable, after all, he deserves to sit in the front row. And Rabbi Akiva spots that he's not so happy with the situation. So he tells him, it's enough that me and the Creator know who you are. That's it. Nobody needs to know who you are. And this is the attitude that we need to carry, both to ladies and women. But since we're focusing on the women, nobody needs to know who you are and what you're doing. This is tzniut. That's why it says tzniut is the same level of anava, being humble. It's enough that Hashem knows who you are. You don't need to get credit from anybody else. It's nice to get credit, and it's nice when your husband, now we'll refer to the husband, to say some encouraging words and nice words. But for the side of the women, you don't need somebody tapping on your shoulder all the time and telling you how great you are. You do it for the sake of Hashem, for the fact that you are preparing the next generation, and it has to be done with mesirut nefesh, with self-sacrifice, and to know that I don't need credit in anything. And it's not only in developing the next generation, it's everything. Everything that you do, if you do it quietly and you're not looking for titles and big publicity, then that's how you do it. You know that about 3 years ago, I was teaching a lot before that. I still was going on lectures and many other things. It was about 3 years ago that it came across to the attention of my rabbi, and he told me, you have to add in front of your name rabbi. You are a rabbi. Don't just call yourself by your name. Add the name rabbi. Why aren't you adding? I said, because I don't feel that, for me a rabbi is like you. I'm telling my rabbi, you are a rabbi. I'm like, I'm a nothing. Besides, what does it matter? But if somebody will think better of me. He says, no, you have to add it. And I added to my name, Rabbi Alon Anava. Everybody, congratulations, wow, ooh, ah. And I was like, what do you mean congratulations? Congratulations for what? Somebody sent me an email, congratulations. Tell them for what? Well, I see you became a rabbi. Told me I became a rabbi 7 years ago. He's like, I didn't know. He's like, because it's none of your business. What? If I'm an engineer, am I walking in the street and saying, I'm an engineer? So the only ones who add the title will be a doctor. But I don't know many lawyers or engineers or architects or pilots and saying, hello, my name is Pilot Moshe. No, my name is Moshe. So, and I was like, no, it's nobody's business. And I don't need to have a title to in front of my name. So my rabbi told me at the time, so listen, I don't ask questions. But he told me, no, you have to have a name, you have to have a title, it's more respectful. But for many years, nobody even knew that I'm a rabbi. I was just, I was just Alon Anava. And it was funny that when I added, everybody emailed me congratulations. So, and the point, my way of thinking was, what does it matter if I have a title? I have 1 ordination, 7 ordinations, who cares? What makes you a better person if you have 7? I know people that had 3, 4 ordinations. They're not holding by the name rabbi. So if you know how to lie and cheat and steal, I don't care how many ordinations you got. Besides the real smicha that we know what the Tanaim and the Morim got, that didn't take them 2 or 3 years in rabbinical school. That's their whole life. It took them to get an ordination, a real smicha. So the point is that in anything that you do, don't look for titles and don't look for credit and recognition. When you're running after the recognition and, oh, I did that, then that takes away from the point. Do things in a humble way. And again, humble, honest, and tsanua and modest, it's not about how you dress, it's how your approach is towards something. And this is what our mothers are coming to teach us. Just do the job. Don't look for fancy titles. Or, a lot of times I go to lectures, they tell me, send us a bio that we can stand in front of the crowd for 10 minutes and tell them who you are. Don't want a bio. Tell them my name is Alon, I was born in Israel. That's it, end of story. Don't need to start praising me instead of 300 people because I did this and I did that. It doesn't matter what I did. I didn't do anything. It's Hashem doing it. Happens to be that I'm the puppet here. So, our Mishnah tells us, don't run away from honor and respect. Some people, they run after honor and respect. And you run after something, it runs with you. And it's not about honor or respect or a title. Just do your job. That's what the Mishnah says. Just do it. The action is the main part. That's where we learn this unbelievable level of humility, of humbleness by our matriarchs. We're saying, don't put anything, any description of ours. Just say, we were married to the tzaddik. That's it, that's enough. I don't need any title. So we want to learn from that unbelievable level of anava, of being humble, of humility, and the dedication to the job itself. I don't need to go out in the streets and say, hey, I did this. It's not the nature of the Torah. And besides that, to understand how powerful and how important is the role of a Jewish woman to educate the next generation, to bring the next generation to be in the level how the first generation was. And only by that's how we actually win what's called Dor Yesharim Mevorach. That your generation after you is not based about a title or something, a fancy status. Rather, it's based on the fact that I just do it for the sake of Shemayim. Be'ezrat Hashem, if that's our agenda, especially the ladies, then Hashem does bless you with a Dor Yesharim Mevorach, with a blessed generation of offsprings, and then kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. And that's the way to bring the redemption, by doing it humble, doing it honest, not looking for any fancy descriptions. And that's Bechlal, a good way of living our life, is just to keep things quiet and humble. The Gemara says, I mentioned a couple of times that every time my wife is pregnant, we don't tell anybody, especially the ones who are abroad and they don't see. Then she wears big clothes, and sometimes I tell my sisters who live far away from me 2 weeks before the birth, oh, by the way, my wife is having a baby. So why? Because the Talmud says, En bracha shora ela b'davar hasamui min ha'ayin. The blessing only dwells in something that is hidden from the eye. So why would I want to go and flash everything around? There's no bracha in there. The bracha only dwells in something that is humble, that is small, that is tsanua. So you want bracha in your life, you want blessing in your life, it's all about being humble. Don't need to start making hoo-ha out of everything. Be'ezrat Hashem, that's where we find and gain the unbelievable abundance and blessing from Hashem. Bezrat Hashem, you should see nachat from all your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. And if you still don't have kids, then Bezrat Hashem, when you do have kids, you should see unbelievable nachat from them. And just remember what an important role a Jewish mother has. And for the men that are watching, then they need to value how important their wife is. And there's nothing wrong if you tell your husbands once in a blue moon, watch this video so you know how valuable I am, and just, appreciate me a little bit more. Bezrat Hashem should merit to have unbelievable nachat from the rest of the generations, and have a beautiful restful week.